welcome to Up Close with Carlos Sang, celebrating art, entertainment, and the human spirit. Welcome to another episode of Up Close with Carlos Sang. My next guest is about to start in a brand new production of The Caretaker at Chichester's Minerva Theatre. He has previously been seen in productions of Jerusalem, The Inheritance, Romeo and Juliet, and The Duchess of Malfi. It's a huge pleasure to be able to introduce the wonderful Jack Riddiford. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
So The Caretaker, it was first performed back in 1960 and was, pretty much an immediate hit with audiences. What do you think it is about this play that has, really made it stand the test of time?
Such a good question. So, I think it's got to do with Pinter in overall. I think, unfortunately, Pinter captures a fear and insecurity in our society, and I think that people often come back to these plays because, unfortunately, whilst there's still those things in our society, they seem to resonate. And certainly with The Caretaker, there's a it really leans into loneliness, and that you can often surround yourself with other very lonely people and have absolutely no connection, but it's better than sleeping alone, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, Harold Pinter, he was an extraordinary man. He was obviously very well respected as a writer, but he had a great career as an actor and as a director as well. Why do you think, Harold Pinter is still so revered in the industry?
I think because it's in my opinion, it's uber realism. He's managed to capture the way that humans actually talk to each other, which is why I think it's so difficult to learn as an actor. It's not, you don't get simple questions and answers. People converse through intentions often. There's a brilliant line in the play. There's a line in the play that Aston says to Davis. He just says, "Where were you born?" And Davis replies, "What do you mean? You don't get these." And he doubles back on himself a lot. So I think there's a fascination with this, seemingly trying to crack the code of it, but it's so visceral already that it's challenging but real and so rewarding all at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, when you first received the script for The Caretaker, what was your sort of first reaction to this play and to your character Mick as well?
Honestly, fear, abject fear. I think I've got a history of going towards the parts that initially I go, there's absolutely no way I could do that. I hadn't really lent into anything Pinter, to be honest. It was a similar thing when I was first introduced to Shakespeare. I thought it was too scary. I didn't think I was smart enough for it. And people had their opinions of it, and I only really started to understand it when you find your own love for it. It took me a few years to do that with classical work, and it's similar with Pinter. There was this grand idea around him, and it's only doing it yourself and finding your own love for it, finding your own ways through it, can you then really fully get into it. But reading The Caretaker, first of all, was just fear and not really understanding it. But on the page, you could say it's seemingly quite surface level, but there's so much bubbling underneath.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite incredible, how this story, unfolds, and just between three people as well, how it all comes together at the end. Do you feel, a lot of pressure, you being essentially one third of the cast and, having to carry the story as a three-hander?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's certainly nowhere to hide. You've got your third of responsibility in serving the play. But I think that's where a lot of actors actually come into their own and thrive. It's okay, right, I've got some responsibility here. Let's have some fun in rehearsals and make it our little group, our little community. And as long as we all know what we're trying to do, how we want to tell this story, then it's art, and people are going to like it or they're not like it, and that's fine. But as long as we are sure and together, and the three of us are clear on what Justin, the director, wants us to do and how we're telling and serving this story, then I don't think anybody can ever fault that. It's just then comes down to art and personal preference.
Yeah, what have these conversations been like with Ian McDiarmid and with Adam Gillen as well on, constructing those relationships and that dynamic between these three characters too?
It's been a lot of just trying to understand, really dig deep everybody's intentions, and understanding that you've got three people coming into this play with three very opposing wants. And because they're so opposing, that's where the conflict in this play comes from, and the humor as well. I didn't really know how funny Pinter was. So it's just been really nailing down on everybody's through lines, right? This play and what everybody wants.
Yeah, I mean it's an extraordinary piece, and I think it will sit so well, within the Minerva as well. You'll really get that sense of claustrophobia and that intensity there as well. Is this something that you had in consideration as well, when you were in rehearsals about, how you would play to that space too?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I've never been to the Minerva before. I didn't know the size, or I'd never seen anything in there before coming down to Chichester. So, in all honesty, we were in the rehearsal room, and our focus at that present time was what's going on, how best do we tell this story, and then you get into a different relationship once we move into the theatre, which we haven't done yet. We're in our last week before we go into tech next week. So then that's our next job of settling ourselves into that space, and how do we push it out? How do we get it out without presenting? How do we make that theatre feel like they're in this claustrophobic room, like you said? How do we bring them in? And I think that's just going to be an ever evolving relationship with the audience.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I feel like it's a really exciting time for Chichester at the moment as well. Obviously, brand new artistic director, new season. How has it been, working with Justin Audibert on, his directing debut, his Chichester directing debut too?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's so exciting being in Chichester at the moment. It's such a lovely place. The theatre setup is extraordinary. There's this energy around the place at the moment. It's so exciting, and Justin is fantastic. Well, he's our leader, and from my experience with him, he feels egoless. It's this collaboration of us three on stage and the rest of the team and Justin, and how we pick through this very specific play, whilst then Justin given us the trust to make our way through it. It's a very exciting time down here.
Yeah, of course, I can imagine. I mean, as you say, like I think Harold Pinter was sort of notorious for, how particular he was about things and when he was around. If he was still around today, would there be anything that you'd want to ask him about, how to approach Mick and how to approach the caretaker too?
Yeah, I think so. There would be a lot of questions I would want to ask him, but from the stories that I've heard, and Ian McDiarmid's knew him quite closely and directed him, and had quite a personal relationship when Ian was at the Almeida. And from the stories that I've heard, Harold was quite I think he was quite open to interpretation of who you think this person is. He was very specific when it comes down to don't change a word, and everything's in here for a reason. There's a famous story that he was directing, I can't remember which play it was, but Alan Bennett was an actor in it, Alan, the writer, and he asked Pinter, he said, what's he doing here? What's his intention here? And Pinter's response was, mind your own fucking business.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, extraordinary man. I mean, like Alan Bennett as well, just an incredible writer as well, and also had a great career as an actor too. This is your first time working down in Chichester, I know. Has the experience felt particularly different to some of the other theatres and towns that you've worked in previously too?
Well, yeah, everywhere you work's different. You have to find that different relationship with the space. It feels like Chichester is the theatre, and this theatre community. It's such an extraordinary place. We haven't got into the theatre yet, so I don't know my personal relationship with the space, but it's very, I don't know, it feels, I just walked in there, the house party's on it there at the moment. I just walked around the set the other day, and it feels grand but quite intimate at the same time. And the Almeida has a very similar feel to that. It's very atmospheric, very on top of you, but it feels like you've got the space to do these grand productions, and at the same time flip it on its head and feel like get the audience to feel like they're in the same room with you. I love doing plays like that. I mean, I worked at the Apollo Theatre in Jerusalem, and that had even though that was a theatre in the West End, it was so close and felt very on top of you whilst being so grand. I don't think I've really worked in a theatre that's sparse, like somewhere like the Olivier. I've never worked. I'd love to. That feels like it feels so far in the distance. When I think I've just always ended up being in plays that are like quite like there's that immediate relationship with you and the audience. They're so close, you could almost reach out and touch them.
Yeah, of course. I mean, as we say, it's a very exciting time for Chichester. Have you had a chance to see any of the shows as part of the new season yet? Like Coram Boy or The House Party?
No, I haven't. I'm seeing Coram Boy tonight.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, for the press night, which I'm very excited by. My a friend of mine's in it, Joe McInnes. So I was in Romeo and Juliet with. She played the nurse. Yeah, I'm very excited to see Coram Boy. And then I think I'll probably see House Party in the next couple of days as well. But I've heard that's fantastic. It's Miss Julie, isn't it?
Yeah. That's like a
Within
modern, really cool version there.
I think
And yeah,
that's a
really,
fantastic idea, isn't it?
yeah, I would love the immersive seating as well, like how you're all like there, like at the party together, and you're like all like reacting to the characters. But yeah, coming back to The Caretaker, obviously it's it's known as one of the greatest plays of the last century. I mean, it's held in such high regard by the public. Do you feel a certain pressure to play to certain expectations, or do you feel like you have a lot of freedom to to put your own spin on things too?
I think that's the constant battle that I find going into any of these sorts of plays, and I found it again with this one. The last play I did was Romeo and Juliet, and those characters have such weight to them and history of the ghosts of the people that have played them before. But something I really learned on that is that you can't try and go towards these characters. They're already there. You are that character. You have to find all of their wants and empathize with them from yourself. And I found a similar battle with this play coming into Caretaker playing Mick, because I felt quite terrified because I'm nothing like Mick. And where does this violence come from? Where does any moments of rage or where do they come from? I had no idea of him before coming in, of Pinter playing him, of this big brute, this big terrifying man. And physically, I'm not a huge brute of a guy. I'm not a big terrifying bloke, or at least I hope I'm not. So I can't paste that on. I can't pretend to be 6'3" and physically dominating. The challenge has been, how do I get that sense and make him terrifying or mercurial or unpredictable without those like physical attributes or natural dominant. So it's been another challenge and exciting way of playing and discovering what do I have in myself for free that can lend to that and serve the story.
Yeah. I mean, the last time I saw you was in Romeo and Juliet. I thought your Mercutio was fantastic, and the first time I saw you was in the Duchess of Malfi, also at the Almeida as Ferdinand. And I guess all of these characters, there's that sort of volatility there, and there's that
Yeah.
impulsiveness. Is that something that you're particularly drawn to in characters?
I didn't think so, but it looks like it, doesn't it? No, I didn't. No, it wasn't. I'd always sort of played the sweet, bumbly friend, or I thought. I don't know. I think maybe I had that expectation, and I remember I went to drama school about, I don't know, 11, 12 years ago, and I turned up, and one of the teachers said to me, I'm quite surprised actually, Jack. I thought you were going to be our new intelligent leading man, and I was quite wrong. At the time, I remember going, "Oh shit!" But I'm not kind of. I suppose I've got something in me for free that's. I don't know. I'm able to tap into certain things that I didn't expect that I could. I mean, I'm not complaining. All these characters that have played are absolutely fascinating and so fun to play. Maybe Lee in Jerusalem was a sweet guy, but there was also an unpredictability to him and excitableness to him. Yeah, I think maybe it's more to do with I'm just drawn to the parts that absolutely petrify me.
Yeah, I mean, Romeo and Juliet and the Duchess of Malfi, they were both very much, like trademark Rebecca Frecknall, like house style productions. Really stunning, striking stuff. How was it, getting to, go back to the Almeida and, working with her team again on, presenting this, really loved piece?
Yeah, Rebecca or Frex, she's absolutely extraordinary. She's you'd meet her and she's so lovely and sort of seemingly unassuming or back-footed, but and sweet and kind. And then in the rehearsal room, she just has, again, a bit like Justin, it just feels egoless. I think she casts her actors for a reason, because I think she wants to see that person play that part, and she's so much more interested in your version of the scene than imposing anything on. And having worked with her before, there was certainly a shorthand, and we remained friends after working together on Duchess of Malfi. She's great at creating an ensemble, a company, a team, and she's the leader of that company. It's always a sad day when you open a Freck show, because then she has to leave. And the Almeida is an incredible place. Such a great place to work. And I live really close to the Almeida as well, so it was really handy getting into work every day.
Yeah, I mean, both play pieces were so incredible and just so. I love how it sort of like subverts your expectations of what those plays are as well. And you've been in, two of the most groundbreaking plays of this century as well. The Inheritance and Jerusalem. Both really groundbreaking pieces. When you first started approaching those two works, did you know that they were going to have such a big impact on their audiences? And why do you think that audiences loved them so much?
The Inheritance, yes, I knew it because I joined when it moved into the West End. So I wasn't in it in the original when it started at the Young Vic, I think in like January 2018 or something like that. And then when it moved into town, I was the only new person to join. I took over from an actor called Luke Allen. I'm sure you know who he is. He's a brilliant actor. I took over from Luke, and it was like trying to board a speeding bullet train, turning up to the rehearsals for the West End with this unbelievable company that were just so in sync and moved so well together. It took me a while to just sort of calm down from this whirlwind, this tornado of wow, what is going on? But such an amazing company that once I managed to settle in, it was just I still can't put my finger on what, like, the Inheritance. It was just I don't know. Like I kind of said before, it felt like the piece and the audience were together. They were in one. Like, and the story it was telling as well. That a lot of people, maybe of recent generations, aren't really aware of. They've heard of the AIDS crisis throughout the 80s, and the inheritance goes through three generations of gay men in New York before, throughout, and after the AIDS crisis. And I think just an unbelievable writer, one of the best directors in the world in Daldry, and then you've got actors like Carl Solar and Paul Hilton and Andrew Burnap and Sam Levine, John Benjamin Hickey, Vanessa Redgrave, and then an extraordinary ensemble of amazing British actors. It felt like it feels like there's no way that couldn't have worked. It doesn't always work like that. You can have the best writer, the best director, the best actors in the world, but sometimes it doesn't always work like that. But this just opened. You had the three, the amazing writer, the best director, and actors, and it seemed to like open a portal into something absolutely extraordinary. You could hear the sobs, certainly at the end of part one. And at the end of Paul Hilton does this 25-minute speech that just had, I don't know, I saw it maybe 100 times, and it just actually hooked every single night. And then Jerusalem was, I remember when I first moved to London, there was this play on. I didn't know anything about it. There was a lot of people saying to me, "Oh, you should go and see this play called Jerusalem. It's they all sound like you. I'm from Bristol, and it's about the best thing you'll ever see, the greatest performance you'll ever see." And I missed it. And then I heard that this revival was happening again, and I was like, "Oh wow, okay. Well, they obviously must have cast that and then got an audition through for it." And that was probably the best 6 months of my life. Ian Rickson's an absolute genius, and he made that feel for us newbies in the cast. And he brought back the guys playing the older characters. He brought them back. It felt like we were rehearsing a new play. And Rylance is like the ultimate company member, leader. Yeah, I don't know how to articulate my time in that play. Only then, like, honesty, like, on stage doing that show felt more like real life than real life for a period of time. The set was just like we were in a field, this big trailer, but you could smoking and drinking on stage, and you could just sort of do what you want. But and it was different every night, but only because we had that freedom to do that because of Ian Rickson's direction and his digging deep and pinpoint intentions that everybody had. Everybody knew exactly what they needed to do. And because we had that, and everyone was so secure in what we were trying to do, you could really do what you want. It was pure freedom. And then Rylance would try and catch you out on the night when you like look left where he was the night before. You looked there and he wasn't there, and then he was over the other side of the stage waving at you or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's they were both incredible shows. What did you sort of like take away yourself, from those experiences as well?
It's about company. It's about serving the text and serving the director. For me, that's now everything, because I'm not just trying to be good for good's sake, or trying to make it. Wasn't Jack good in that? I have an obligation to try and be good to serve this play, serve this text, serve the production, serve whoever's playing the lead parts, and then that, for me, that just takes the pressure off, because it's not about you. It's about something bigger. All of these plays, certainly Jerusalem and Inheritance, and what we're trying to work towards with The Caretaker, that it's bigger than anyone in it. It should be bigger than anyone in it. It's about the telling of the story, and can we move people?
Yeah, definitely. Would you say you're an actor who's more drawn to characters or to, the people that you'll be getting to work with?
It's a good question. it's probably a mixture of both. I don't mind not really having a lot to do as long as I feel like I've got some responsibility in the telling and the serving of this production. Do I feel like I can benefit this play? Otherwise, it's quite difficult to get those get the insides, get the motivation working.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just as a last question, what do you hope audiences will take away with them when they go and see The Caretaker?
I want them to feel what they want. I think it's just not, as long as we get them to feel something. Whether if they leave feeling really frustrated, I think that's kind of fine, because you're frustrated with these men. If you're moved because you understand that these flawed guys are actually just really desperately lonely and are just seeking any form of connection, I'm hoping they just feel something.
Jack Riddiford, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, man.